by the giant stupid sphere. It's Richard Scott Jones and Ben Barrett back again. And as you may have guessed from that intro, we're not talking about Mass Effect Andromeda or Total War Warhammer or we must have talked about
League of
different
Legends.
video game. League of Legends, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
We're actually going to be discussing Destiny, Destiny 2, all things related to Wizards from the Moon. Richard has his Destiny 2 t-shirt on, and that is to represent that he is quite excited about the video game.
I'm quite. This actually means I've completed everything in Destiny Year 2.
No. What it means is you're excited about Destiny 2. They sent it to you ahead of time.
Okay.
Because you're a special boy. And what we're going to do here is basically going to discuss, is it worth the hype? Because Activision want me to be excited, don't they, Rich?
They do. They want you to be very keen. We're going to be hearing a lot about it over the coming summer.
And I'm not excited. Actually, I'm kind of reasonably excited. But my role here is to put to Rich and to you the negativity that can be surrounding the game. And in fact, let's kick off there.
Okay.
Because we've kind of been here before.
Yeah.
Where Activision and Bungie have been like, we're making the best game ever. It's gonna blow your socks off. It's gonna be the greatest thing you've ever seen.
It was very much like, Bungie are here to revitalise the shooter or change the shooter like they did with
Exactly, yeah. They were like, it's Halo again. It's that good. But here we are. Now, when it came out, it looked very nice, particularly on the newer generation of consoles. It felt good to play. Like, the shooting was probably some of the best console shooting there was at the time, I've been told.
In terms of gun feel and engine feel, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that'd be fair to say.
But socially, it was kind of quite cold. A lot of the missions got very dull and repetitive, particularly if you had to keep doing them over and over and over again. The story, I mean, as it was, it existed. It was there. They got some voice actors in to do some work. Some of them didn't feel like they really did the take to finish it off. And then the progression, particularly at the end game, was very, very punishing.
Yeah,
why?
very grindy.
I mean, isn't all this is just going to happen again, isn't it? Like, this doesn't inspire any confidence in me, generic angry man.
I think it'd be fair. It's not controversial to say that Destiny 1 was in many ways, or in some ways at least, a disappointment. But I think in hindsight, that's actually totally understandable, because Bungie's last game at the time was Halo Reach, which was a traditional linear shooter. They only had about 150 to 170 staff over the course of Reach's development. And they're going from that, when they're making Destiny 1, to a completely new kind of shooter, with systems that they'd had no prior experience creating, social systems and things of that nature. And as you say, they nailed the stuff that we already knew they were good at, like graphics and gunplay, and we were talking about story. The lore to Destiny is actually really interesting and deep
when you
and
read
rich.
It on the website,
Yeah,
which is where they put it.
Which is where they put it, yeah.
of
If you
putting
have
it
to
in
go
the-
away to the Grimoire cards and everything, it's actually quite good, but that was badly delivered in Destiny 1. But what did they know about designing RPG-style progression systems or MMO-style social features? So,
Well, the answer is they should have done.
right.
I mean, that's the game you're making. You're making this massive, large-scale thing. And when it comes to games like that, and you have the resources, which they did, I mean, backed by Activision saying, make us the next Call of Duty, basically, saying, look, we want another franchise. They delayed it. They had loads and loads of money. And I think people, particularly when they got the original Destiny, would have thought that it should have delivered better on what they were doing. Even with like the story rewrite in the middle, the reason you rewrite it is so that it's good when it actually comes out. And
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't.
This is all fair, but the point is they know now, right? Now that Destiny 2 is actually coming to PC, we're in line for a version.
Well, they've certainly learned where they should put their FPS games. I'll give them that.
Yes, we're in line on PC for a version of Destiny that might possibly live up to the promise that they had the first time around. And look how far Destiny 1 has come with all of its patches and expansions since then. The progression systems, as you mentioned, are way easier. They're way more satisfying now. There's loads more stuff to do, loads more content. There's even an effort to make the environments interactive, which I imagine is quite hard given the engine that they're working with. And Bungie have said that Destiny 2 is all about them fixing the stuff that they couldn't get right in the expansions to the original. So if the leaks...
So, you're talking about more systemic stuff there?
Yeah, more systemic stuff. They've mentioned that there were things that they couldn't fix about the original because they were limited in terms of the development tools that they had. But if the leaks that we've heard about Destiny 2 are to be believed, and they're from very credible sources, we're getting there's a overhaul to the engine and to the development tools that should make live content and a more interactive, more breathable, more living world more plausible. There will be planets full of towns, outposts, quests, many NPCs to speak with, which, given the premise that we know about the game so far, maybe there'll be refugees from the tower now that we know the tower has been destroyed.
Is that the big thing?
No, the big sphere is the Traveller,
Right. Okay. You know, I knew that.
Right.
I knew
Yeah.
that. The tower is where you got your quests and stuff, right?
Yeah. The tower was the main social hub in Destiny 1. Is just under the Traveller. That's where the Traveller lives. So there's
stick to the bought note. Go on.
not quite. So there's been a big focus on learning the lessons from Destiny 2. More regular content drops, I think, are something that we can expect. And mentioning resources, Bungie are now 750 staff. And we know that other Activision studios have been attached to work on Destiny 2, so over 1,000 people are now working on its development. So if we see Destiny 1 as a learning exercise, and Destiny 2 as
several $billion learning exercise.
Quite large learning exercise, yes.
I wish that was what mine were like.
But it sets us. It's viewed in that context. Destiny 2 is worth getting excited about. Bungie have learned their lessons.
See, now I'm not sure they have, right? Because you look at the stuff that they've put out so far. You're talking about leaks, and you know, like a lot of this business goes on leaks, right? That's just the way it is, particularly with games nowadays, with the shorter kind of lead-in time to release, that they actually want to talk about stuff. Look at like Mass Effect Andromeda, where we had about 3 weeks where they actually started telling us stuff, right? But what they've actually said so far is stuff about, you know, the way the content is being produced. There's going to be 2 expansions. That's exactly the same as they did last time. That they suffered really bad content drought through that.
They did.
If you look at, you know, other MMOs that are going on at the moment, they are a sister studio now, effectively, to Blizzard. They've had their own content drought problems. They fixed that by having very regular updates. Or, well, I say fixed. They have attempted to fix it through very regular updates. Depends which part of the community you ask as to how successful that's been. But, you know, they worked on an expansion model. Now, it was slightly different in that it was kind of these 1.5-year gaps, 2-year gaps, and they were trying to get the time down there. But you have that massive gap of time where the next expansion is in full development and the people playing the game have 8 months, 6 months of nothing new to do. You want them to have learned their lessons, obviously, but it looks like they haven't from what they're saying about the content plan. And not only that, does it not seem that they've learned a lesson, it doesn't seem like anything's changed either.
You're right. The content plan as it's released for Destiny 2, as we understand it now, it looks basically the same as it was for Destiny 1, i.e. 2 big expansions coming in the winter and the spring after release. And that's that's not necessarily encouraging, because the way that the content was released for Destiny 1, as you say, we had big gaps of content with nothing new to do, and, you know, weeks of grinding the same raid over and over and over again. But, you know, each expansion pack could be broken down into patches, could be drip fed in that way. We don't know enough to be completely pessimistic about this yet, and if not, then the original Destiny did get a bunch of free updates in the last couple of years, which added new gameplay features such as strike scoring, refreshing the old raids and adding them in with new challenges. That's just gone live. Live events with new quests, cosmetics, and game types like jet bike racing, which, you know, went on, which were available for a few weeks at a time and then discontinued, much like Overwatch does. And there were regular rebalances to the weapon meta, which kept it all fresh. And again, the leaks that have come out of the studio so far suggest that, you know, the content drought issue is the main thing, one of the main things that Bungie are focusing on. So there's every reason to be optimistic that that's going to be fixed.
Now, the worry there, of course, is that the small things that you're talking about, if you have loads and loads of tiny things, that doesn't keep communities happy. At least from what I've experienced, you know, again, dealing with Blizzard games a lot of the time over the past couple of years, is they will, you know, people expect something big. And you can do those tiny updates. People love them for 2 months after release. Then they expect something larger. And also, with stuff like rebalancing a meta, I mean, that just pisses some people off. Now, people like change, but they also hate change, well, you know, at the same time.
It keeps things interesting at the very least. And the point is that they're definitely making content a priority. If we insist on going off of only official stuff, I think there's also a lot that we can be encouraged by just in the things that we've seen so far. So if you take a look at the trailers, obviously they're meant to hype us, but look at how they're presenting characters like Cade, the robot guardian, or the Exo Guardian to be technically correct about it, and Zavala, the big sort of inspiring Titan who's the Vanguard leader, the blue dude.
Hated them both.
Right, there's this. Right, but if you look at the way they're presented, it shows that the Bungie have sort of understood a lot about how to present them as characters now. Zavala continues the sort of portentous, straight-faced, inspirational tone that Destiny has had since the beginning, but Cade has grown into the charismatic sort of comic relief role that he was given at the start of The Taken King. And if you compare his treatment to the way he was treated in the original, it's a night and day difference. And so there's clearly this, Bungie understand these characters now. So purely from a writing and a characterization perspective, there's a lot that we can take out from there. And then lastly, you can consider the staff. Luke Smith is directing the sequel, and he was the guy who made the best bit in the original, which is the Vault of Glass raid. Arguably the only piece of content in the original game that was genuinely superlative. And then he was promoted to the best expansion, the Taken King, and that was also very, very well received. I think that's the point at which the original game really turned a corner. So Bungie have clearly learned from that, and they've attached him to direct the sequel. So
and it's important to have those people on top, right? Like, game development is very hard. Even if I'm being particularly negative here, that is very true. And it seems like this guy definitely knows A, what Destiny should be, and B, has the ability to implement it, to realise that vision better than the other people that he's worked for in the past. Now, the question is, does he have the experience leading a game of this size? And the answer is no.
Right.
But we'll see, right?
Yeah.
So, where does that leave us, do you think, as Mr. Destiny t-shirt with the game as a whole?
I think when we had to briefly break PCGamesN kayfabe here and admit that we do sometimes play on other consoles. So I played the original. It means nothing. It's a brief flirtation. But I played the original Destiny, and I was disappointed, like many people were when it first came out. I think it's now become a fairly good game.
Then they send you a t-shirt and you change your mind. I see.
Right, yeah. No,
I see.
Corrupt. But given everything that Bungie have done to the original game, given everything they've, the way that they presented the sequel, the changes to the staff, the clear commitment that Activision have put behind them, I think there's a lot of reason. You're allowed to check into the hype train, I think. It's permissible.
And in that case, if it's terrible, we get to remake this video, which will just be me laughing at Rich for perhaps a full 10 minutes.
There you go.
I think the video team like 10-minute videos, so that should be good.
Cynicism is a hedging your bets position.
Oh, exactly. That's why I do it. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We will have, oh my goodness, so much more Destiny content in the near future. Now, they've got a live stream going later this month.
That's right, May 20th.
May 20th, there you go. And I'm sure loads of news will come out of that, goodness knows what. Probably get to see. I think they've said that's going to be the first gameplay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. We'll have loads of content after that regarding what's seen during that live stream, as well as anything else that Activision let us perhaps take a look at. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like down in that corner over there. The subscribe button's right next to it, so you might as well click it while you're down there. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.